I started this language as a way for me to make a fantasy world out of it, but I didn't get very far making the world, so I just kept making the language because I like linguistics and all that, but it's going very slowly. It's like a hobby kind of thing. But this is just for everyone who wants to learn it as it's being made. There isn't a lot added, but there are multiple rules and some things. Um, and a lot of concepts I take from languages because I like the concept, or I like the word, or the pronunciation, or the spelling. Um, but I think first of all we have to start with one of the first things I ever thought about when I made the language was the alphabet. So you have your usual alphabet, A to Z, there's no special characters or whatever, and I just decided didn't want anything to do with C, I didn't want anything to do with X, didn't want anything really to do with Z, although it does have some things, so that's pending. And I also didn't want much to do with the letter Q, since I always confused me being both a K and a the way to make Q, which you could just do with KEW, which never made sense. Um, but that's the first thing. Though two of those rules have been broken for pronunciations and new sounds I added into the language. So when you see, for example, you take the letter O. The letter O is always going to be pronounced as O. For example, you have the word ost, which is for cat. O-S-T. Ost. It will never be pronounced anything differently. That is always an O for ost. Um, Same goes for every single other letter. If it's an I, it will be E, and if it's a U, it'll be U. Um, so yeah, you have the O sound, the U sound for U. The E is always but there are some exceptions. For example, it will be pronounced as an sound when it's especially at the end of a word. For example, if you were to express how you feel, you'd say dul, which would just be D, U, and L, but the E is there just in case you would like to pronounce it that way. It's a very free, open thing. For example, you'd have dul. Um, Another example is when you want to say also when you want to say that that something is with something, but the second noun is much more of a descriptive meaning. For example, coffee and milk. Um, if you say it's coffee with milk, you wouldn't. The milk, it has much more of a descriptive meaning to it than being a noun on its own. Therefore, you'd have coffee, get to nouns later, and Milch, which I stole from German, obviously, get to the C later. So you want to say this with this. So if you bring me on a plate a cup of coffee and a cup of milk, you'd say coffee, je Milch. But if you were to say it's coffee with milk, for example, it is coffee with milk in it, where milk has much more of a descriptive meaning than meaning milk as a noun on its own, then you would say coffee le Milch. So um, it's to distinguish between a more descriptive noun and a more um, like a noun meaning something. Also, I'm not trained in linguistics. I'm literally doing this out of high school, so um, don't don't like expect me to know everything. But that's just for pronunciation. And a little fun tidbit. I go in rants, which I should probably stop and streamline. Uh, so those are the vowels. Then the Y sound is a lot in the is found a lot in the language. For example, if you want something, um, it would be sick, which would be S, Y, I, and K, meaning sick, sick, il sick coffee, I want coffee. Um, uh, but now that we're on from the pronunciation, I think everything else should fall into place. I'll get to the special letters like C and X a little later, because although they're easy, you won't be finding them much in the beginning of this, I guess, lessons. I don't know. Um, I was going to talk about sentence structure. Sentence structure is always going to be subject, verb, and object. I haven't gotten to complex sentences yet, but as far as I know, that is about how it is. And the language is very free. If you don't know how something works, you could improvise it, and it'll most likely work in a sentence. You might need some clarifying afterwards if things get complicated. That's about it. For example, if I were to say, you want coffee, I'd say vous siek coffee. It is subject, verb, and object. The person, the thing doing, what is being done, and what it is being done to. And whenever you want to pose this into a question, do you want coffee? It will be the exact same sentence structure, just with a heightened tone at the end to signify that it is a question. Vous siek coffee? So to start off with simplistic words, and it is very important that you learn these to, instead of being the word for, you'd much more want to understand the entire meaning of the word and what it encapsulates. For example, if you would want to learn the word vous, all in all, it just means the person you are talking to. So if I am talking to you, I'd say vous. Yes, technically it just takes the place of you, but to understand that it is the concept of it is a word to describe the concept of the person you are talking to. You want coffee, vous siek coffee. Similarly, if you want to talk about yourself in a sentence, it'll be il or me. So il is more when you would use the word I. It is whenever you are whenever you're talking to yourself in a non-possessive way. But if you are talking about yourself in a possessive way, for example, my dog, it would be miesk. But if you were to say, I want coffee, il siek coffee, not me siek coffee, because that would basically, it wouldn't work, because what is possessive in that sentence? It's il siek coffee, but it is miesk. Um, so, and I haven't gotten down to group names yet, but I have thought about wuns and ons, taking inspiration from a lot of Germanic languages and Dutch-derived languages, like my home language. Um, but as far as it is for now, it is vous, il, and me. A concept I could also cover now is one of the special letters, finally. So the C letter I really dislike in use language across the world, because it's never consistent, not even within languages of itself. Um, so I decided to cut it out of the language, but I put it back in recently because the thing I hate even more is when two letters next to each other make an entirely different sound. For example, in English with SH. Yes, it makes sense, it's an S sound pronounced with a H way, sh, but it's two different letters. And what if you would have a word that are two words stuck together, the one ending in S and the other one starting in H? Someone who doesn't know the word would pronounce it with an SH sound unless they know the word, and it's minor inconveniences that I just want to solve, make things streamlined. Therefore we have C to take the SH sound. So, first of all, whenever you want to, you never use articles such as the or a or anything like that. For example, you wouldn't say an apple, you would just say apple. You wouldn't say the man, you'd just say man. because without saying the word, you are already implying that it is something of. There's not much use for the word except for, technically speaking, useless extra knowledge being conveyed. So it is. I decided to add these words for whenever you want to specify if what you are talking about is specified or unspecified in a way. So you would have she, which would mean the much more direct translation would be this, but it can be used in any other context that would imply the same meaning. Um, and sha, which just means that. So, and also in other meanings. For example, if I say the dog is, I don't know, I got no other words, so I'm gonna say the dog is soft. Why not? Well, no, the dog is hungry. I'd say, and there is also no word for is unless it's specified or necessary, which I'll get to those. You'd say yes golod, but if they ask which dog, you say she yes golod. But if you would want to specify that that, or something that isn't this, it would be sha. Um, I can get up with it's for later, just to understand the concepts I'm trying to bring into the language. For example, one of the most important concepts is the word for is. When something is something else, usually at the start of the language it was just e. So if I were to say I am hungry, I'd say ili golod. Um, but it is not necessary to use this article at all, because you don't really need to say that you are. You just say you hungry, I hungry. It's not really that necessary. But if it is necessary, if someone says, "But you were hungry," then you say, "No, I am hungry." Then you would use e, and you would most likely enunciate it a lot more prominently. For example, if someone were to say, um, "No, you you were hungry," uh, "Vous golod," you'd say, "Do ili golod." I am hungry. Um, So it's not necessary to use is unless it is. For example, is and a lot of other words, if the one word ends in a vowel and the next one starts in a vowel, you can choose whether or not to add the sound s to the start of the word. It is prominent in the word is. For example, if you want to say you are, it would be vous si, not vous i, because that is a very awkward way to change the positions in your throat to make the different sounds. So it's vous. Though it is much more found when the word si gets a prefix added to it, and prefixes are the main way to tell tenses. So you have je, which means past tense, and ne, which means which means future tense. So was is literally just e in the past tense. It's a past tense of the verb. Is in general just a verb, so it's a past tense verb. Jesse, or going to be is Nissi. Um, so also the J sound always makes a j sound, never a hard j. Like for Josh, it's much more of a French sound if you want to compare it that way. And I guess that's about it. To start off with, just a few things to practice if because you need to practice a language to learn it, as far as I've seen so far. So you could go up to someone and say, you could go up to someone and tell them or ask them, vous prot, which is just, how are you? Vous prot? The X sound makes a very guttural like you find a lot in German, not German, Afrikaans and Dutch, and those kinds of things. So vous pot is how are you? You would say uh, il gelik, I'm happy, or I'm good, or the more accepted way to say good is il job, to say that you are good. Vous pot, il job. Um, or if you aren't feeling that great, you want to say that you're doing pretty badly, you say ros, il ros. If someone asks, are you, oh damn. If someone asks, are you, uh, are you feeling okay? Are you feeling happy? They would say, vous potrelik, and ask it. And then you could say, let's say yes, and you would say, vi. Oh damn, il, oh damn, il, I, gelik. Vi, ili gelik. Yes, I am happy. And if they ask, are you happy? And you say, no, I'm sad, you would say, do, il trullo. Promise that's it. It's an R. Do, il trullo. I am sad. We'll get to colors and all those things at a later date. I think I covered everything I need to do. So, for the first one at least. So, to recap, the most important bits, you have present tense and future tense, which is je and ne, respectively. The two dots and the u change it from an u to a e. So it's like an u, but slightly open, more open sound to it. Very German. To and vous is the person you are speaking to. Il is you, the speaker, and me is when you are talking about something about you, something possessive to you. For example, my dog, miesk. If you want to ask how someone is, you'd use the word bchot. Bchot as a concept is how are you? Just in a word, it is the way that you are. So vous bchot. So if I were to say vous bchot gelik, and then someone would answer no or yes, I feel happy, they could either say vi, il bchot gelik, to say yes, I am feeling good. Bchot is more of the asking and answer to how are you. Vu bchot, and then gelik is to be happy, and trulo is to be sad. That's all I have for this first part, and I guess happy learning.